If you're ever looking to cause controversy on the internet, there are a few ways you can go about it. You could talk about politics. I don't recommend that. One surefire way to cause an endless stream of insults and internet chest thumping is by declaring yourself a fan of Marvel or DC comics. I'm not even going to touch the cinematic universes. And you have to pick one side. That is the world that we live in now. There is no middle ground. The Marvel versus DC debate has been raging for decades, and I'm sure even right now somebody is declaring me a Marvel fanboy because I dared to say Marvel first when I said the Marvel versus DC debate has been raging for decades. Because I said Marvel versus DC. Oh no, I think I'm going to be caught in a loop here. Oh shit. The Marvel versus DC yeah, we're stuck in a loop. Let me see if I can pull the plug on this real quick. There we go. Now, I'm not here to poke the hornet's nest, and I have no dog in this fight. I'm more of a casual comic fan. I collected in the 90s, and I made sure to get my hands on as many holographic covers as I possibly could because I was convinced they'd be worth millions one day. They're not. But I'm still holding out hope that this Married with Children comic is going to bring me an early retirement. Thankfully, the internet wasn't as prominent back in 1996 when the Marvel vs. DC, or DC vs. Marvel, crossover event took place. Although I imagine if we found a way to harness the rage of 1,000 suns that emanated off the keyboards of fanboys that were upset that Silver Surfer beat Green Lantern, we might actually achieve energy independence. That's pretty cool. The basic premise of the crossover is as follows. There are two brothers, godlike beings who personify the DC and Marvel universes. They encompass the whole of everything except each other. Each was simply me. Not me, but me, as in them, or something. I don't know. I think it's philosophical. They had battled each other eons before, destroying and rebuilding creation all over again and giving birth to a multiverse. Their memories of each other had faded and each universe existed alongside one another. But now, for some reason, I think it has something to do with this cardboard box? Maybe. There is a tear in the fabric of space and time, with heroes and villains crossing over into each other's universes. The brothers are now aware of the other's existence, and they both believe their universe is superior to the other. Now they must wage a war to end all wars by pitting their respective superpowered beings against each other. But these battles aren't to the death, rather immobilization, because even cosmic beings follow the rules of wrestling. This 4-part crossover event probably came at a weird time during the 90s, something that might have confused casual comic fans, like myself. Spiderman wasn't Peter Parker, rather the clone Ben Reilly, which they casually address kind of in this panel. Also, he hilariously tries hitting on Lois Lane. Fucking nerd. Green Lantern is depicted by Kyle Rayner and not Hal Jordan. This kind of confused me as a kid, not because I knew who Hal Jordan was, but because the last reference I had to Green Lantern was Guy Gardner in The Death of Superman. And I specifically remember him because this stupid bowl haircut. Nerd. And Thor looked like this. I don't know. The costumes were always a little over the top there for a minute in the 90s, so what is that? Now, the main appeal for this crossover was, of course, who were the superior superheroes? There were 11 main battles across the pages of these comics. The results of 6 of those battles were determined by the miniseries creative team, while the remaining 5, in true 90s fashion, were determined by the readers in a voting system. Getting your very own ballot, you were instructed to fill it out and mail it to the Battle of 96 headquarters, email your votes to an America Online address of the hero of your choice. That's kind of a dated sentence. Or drop the ballot off at your local comic book shop. Now, that last option I feel like has the most potential for abuse. Perhaps the comic book shop guy doesn't think that Captain America would beat Batman, so he gathers all those ballots and in the middle of the night, throws them into the dumpster behind the Rainforest Cafe and sets it on fire. And then goes home to finish his drawing of Wonderwoman kissing Catwoman. So let's get to the results and see which superhero managed to best the other in this epic crossover from the 90s. We'll start with the results of the creative team and see how the heroes stack up. Aquaman versus Namor. These two muscle-bound seamen, sea persons, let's go with that, do battle underwater as one would expect. The fight is littered with verbal jabs, with this quip by Namor getting a light chuckle out of me.
How lost you the hand, pray tell? Did it snap off from your having patted yourself on the back too often?
Yeah, got him. After knocking Aquaman into what I assume is comic book SeaWorld, it seems like the match could go in either direction. But Aquaman does get the upper hand here. No pun intended. Tying up Namor and doing the only logical move to stop his foe. Dropping a killer whale on him. Points for creativity. Next up, we have two anti-heroes battling it out in Gotham. Elektra versus Catwoman. This fight's pretty disappointing. It's only 2 pages long, and ends with Elektra cutting Catwoman's whip, which causes her to tumble into a dumpster filled with kitty litter. Still, I bet some of the readers enjoyed those butt and boob shots. Time to check in on the speedsters of the Marvel and DC universe and see how their fight is going. Fast, I assume. Ultimately, this battle comes down to who is more willing to allow innocent people to die while the battle rages on. Quicksilver takes advantage of the Flash's heroics, hitting him with a flurry of punches and seems to take pleasure in it. But the hesitation he shows once the Flash is down costs him the match, as the same fast punch move is performed against his face. I feel like a well-timed nut shot would have been the winning move here. I mean, right? Time to check in on the two youngest superheroes battling it out for universal supremacy. Robin and Jubilee from the X-Men. I probably should have expected this fight to be as quick as it was. I mean, Robin outsmarts Jubilee by using his cape as a decoy and then ties her up. That's it. That's all that happens.
Somebody really did their homework.
This next fight pits the Silver Surfer against Green Lantern. Now, this could be really dope, seeing the Green Lantern come up with imaginative weapons to face off against the Green Lantern. But it just ends in a whimper, with the two flying full force at each other and just colliding, causing a big explosion. 2 out of 10? Oh, I guess I'm rating these now. Thor vs. Captain Marvel is actually one of the better fights in this crossover. I'll admit, I really don't give a shit about the character Captain Marvel, or Shazam. I don't want to confuse anybody. In fact, I don't even think I knew who the character was at the time. Would it have been more appropriate to pit Thor against Superman or Wonderwoman? Yeah, maybe. But instead, the God of Thunder is tasked with beating up a kid. Yeah, the kid can turn into a superhero, but at the end of the day, the kid's what, like 10? I mean, I guess it's obvious who won, right? Thor, by intercepting the lightning bolt that changes little Billy into Shazam. Bet you feel big and strong now, huh, Thor? Beating up a kid. Although, look at those muscles. With the first 6 fights decided, the Marvel and DC universes are deadlocked in a tie. And now it's up to the readers to decide the fate of the remaining battles. Hopefully, the readers had enough sense to choose the right heroes. Just like the citizens of Talkeetna, Alaska did in 1997 when they voted for Stubbs, the cat, as mayor of their town. How cute he is. I want him to be my mayor. Admittedly, these matchups are the most interesting and could really swing in favor of either hero. But we'll start with what I think is probably the biggest disappointment, at least to me personally, and probably to a lot of readers at the time. Wolverine versus Lobo. If you don't know who Wolverine is at this point, then I don't know what to tell you. We've been exposed to the character for like 50 years at this point, and in cinema since the year 2000. But you'd be forgiven if you're not up to speed on the DC character Lobo. An alien mercenary and bounty hunter, this cigar-smoking, long-haired, originally intended as a satire character, enjoyed relative success in the 90s. With abilities similar to Wolverine like a regenerative healing factor and an expert in hand-to-hand combat, this matchup could, theoretically, rage on indefinitely. And yeah, I've looked up the numerous debates online about which character would win, in between a lot of nuh-uhs and conversations steering in the direction of, can Wolverine beat a Predator? It sounds like Lobo would win, hands down. The fight, however, goes about how you'd expect, taking place in a space bar, machismo dialogue, but the fight is over before you know it, and it takes place off-panel. Wolverine wins and celebrates his victory with a cigar. Look, I'm a Wolverine fan, have been for the better part of 30 years. I'm a dude who has reoccurring dreams about becoming Wolverine, and about once a week I tape pens to my hands to see how it would look if I had Wolverine's claws. Pretty cool. But even I don't think that this fight should have gone the way that it did. Namely because at this time, Wolverine had bone claws because Magneto stripped the adamantium from his skeleton. I mean, what are bone claws going to do against a guy that looks like this? I imagine they would just immediately snap after just touching one of the 12 abs that are on Lobo's stomach.
Ow, 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 oh, stop, oh, stop, oh.
And I'm one of those rare people that actually likes Bone Claw Wolverine. Check out this photo of me from 2006. I like me some Bone Claw Wolverine. Except for this one. The fuck was that? But in the spirit of democracy, the kids have spoken and our favorite Canadian walked away the victor. Wonderwoman versus Storm. Stumbling upon Thor's hammer Jonathan after his battle with Shazam, Wonder Woman is able to lift it, granting her the power of Thor. This fight would have gone in a totally different direction, and it's pretty rad that even with this massive upgrade in power, Storm refuses to back down. I love Storm. But Wonder Woman, wanting a fair fight, ditches the hammer, and these two badasses throw down the old-fashioned way. And I can respect that. And while this is another fight that ends as quick as it began, I can appreciate how Storm does feel bad having bested Wonder Woman. But this panel right here, I know that's supposed to be rain. You know that's supposed to be rain. That's calm. Superboy versus Spider-Man. I don't like either of these characters, but for different reasons. I had a really hard time giving a shit about any of the new characters that were introduced after the death of Superman. Steel was kinda cool because of that hammer, and Cyborg Superman looked kinda dope aesthetically, but that's about as far as my give a shits goes. And I've never really been a fan of child versions of established characters. It just feels very meh and uncreative, even if they have slight variations to their powers. And yeah, I know he's a clone, but his name is Superboy, and that's lame. Fuck that dorky smile, those stupid glasses, and that dumb haircut. Superboy. And look, I like Spider-Man. Who doesn't? But I don't like Ben Reilly because I just don't like people named Ben. It all goes back to when Ben Naughton stole my Ninja Turtles from my backpack on the way to school one day, so I just don't like people named Ben, usually. Also, Ben Reilly just isn't a Spider-Man that I know enough about. I know he's a clone, and I kind of love this dorky-ass costume, but I don't like him. Despite all of that, these two heroes were forced to battle it out. Clone versus clone. And I guess my hate for Superboy is stronger than my hate for Ben Reilly, and I take pleasure in seeing him get knocked the fuck out in this panel. And then electrocuted in this one. Butthead. Superman versus the Hulk. Yet another disappointing fight between the Man of Steel and the man who is a monster and also really strong. I don't think that this fight could have gone any other way but boring. We know Superman is mostly an invincible powerhouse with a sweet mullet, and the Hulk smashes without a mullet. So here's the cliff notes. Punch, heat vision, ground smash, double punch, 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 big punch into mountain, mountain fall, Supes win. Hulk sad. Or maybe he's actually dead. I mean, Supes even says it himself. He gave him everything he got, putting Hulk on par with the last son of Krypton. Captain America versus Batman. I imagine Cap versus Bats would cause a little bit more controversy today than it did in the 90s. Sure, Captain America is a super soldier and he has that sweet shield, but Batman always has, like, contingency plans to take out every member of the Justice League if he ever had to. And he could do it. Both of them are skilled fighters, and as is shown in the comic, they have already battled at a near stalemate for hours. But as fate would have it, the fight ends with a well-timed batarang to Cap's head while the sewer is flooded with dookie water. Batman swims down to save Captain Rogers and manages to pull him up to the streets of Manhattan. And this is where the big battle ends. Not with a victory of one universe over the other, but rather a merging of the two realities, creating an amalgam universe, which looks goofy as fuck, but I absolutely love it. The final issue dives right into the weird as we see merged versions of our heroes and villains. Take a look at Darkclaw, a combination of Wolverine and Batman. So many pointy parts. It's wild, but it's oh so brief. And this is not actually the doing of the Cosmic Brothers, but rather the Cosmic Guardians of each universe. The Living Tribunal, sweet name, and the Spectre. Their last-ditch effort to save both realities was to merge them into one. But thanks to this dude who randomly shows up in every issue next to a cardboard box and has powers or something, I don't know, I skipped a lot of that dialogue. He gives LT and Specky access to the power inside the heroes to restore the universes. I guess, I don't know, comics. The universes are untangled once more, and our heroes are back and fighting alongside each other against Thanos and Darkseid, Kingpin, and Mole Man. The sky rains blood. That's cool. As the Cosmic Brothers fight each other to bring an end to the universe. Not cool. And as the slow realization that this may be the end, the heroes fall silent. Batman and Captain America are transported to the space where the brothers battle as a final-ditch effort to end the cosmic struggle. The final blows cause Bats and Cap to scream out as their lives flash before their eyes. And in turn, the Cosmic Brothers also see those events play out. A young Bruce Wayne witnessing his parents' murder and swearing vengeance, devoting his life to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. He became one among many, but remained forever unique. Steve Rogers, weak in the flesh but a willing spirit to subject himself to experiments to fight against a great evil. One among many, but remained forever unique. And in that moment, the brothers' eyes meet, and they truly see each other for the first time. And then they kiss. Nah, they just shake hands and speak for the first time ever. The universes are back to being separate and life continues on for our heroes. And that's it. Is this a comic series worth checking out? I absolutely think that it is. Clunky plot aside and ignoring the disappointment of some of the battles, it's kind of a cool moment in history when comics were struggling during the 90s. There are some genuinely fun moments in this series, like when Wolverine and Gambit steal the Batmobile, or when Jubilee is eye-effing Robin. I don't want to give away more of the fun little surprises and Easter eggs in these issues, even though I explained the whole story poorly, but I think it's a big, dumb, fun ride of a comic. It may be goofy looking back on it now, but at the time, it was kind of charming seeing our heroes take part in these fights and still have respect and admiration for each other, and even realizing they could work together as teammates. Did this miniseries save the comic industry? Probably not. Did it introduce new characters to younger readers? Yeah, I'd say it probably did. Given that we live in an age where there are tons of superhero movies, and whether or not you think they are trash or treasure, they introduce these characters to a younger audience. It may not be your version that you grew up with, but those stories haven't gone anywhere. You can still read them. And you can even draw Wolverine giving a handy to Clayface if you want to. I don't know why you would, but I'm sure somebody would pay good money for that. Just like how I don't like Ben Reilly. It doesn't negate the fact that his story was probably somebody's first introduction to Spider-Man. It's okay to not like something. It's okay to think something is rad. Live and let live, dudes. And that's going to do it for this episode of I Miss the 90s. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and a comment down below. And if I made an error, I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comments. But that's okay. I like to learn. I think that's dope. If you want to check out another awesome crossover from the 90s, be sure to check out this video on Charles Barkley versus Godzilla. It is wild. Until next time, dudes, I'm Mike O'Connor.
Oh.
You'll never get it right. Later.